Hello everybody, this is Mr. Query from Sociology class, and this is part 4 of the video series on Chapter 3 called Cultural Conformity and Adaptation. The first few parts of this video series of Chapter 3 dealt with Section 1, and today's part is going to deal with, briefly, the key points of Section 2, which is titled Social Control. Now, Section 1 dealt with American values and listed a number of the traditional American values, and in class and in the various videos we bounced around a lot of the controversies and reasons why people should focus on values, not only as a society but as individuals as well. Section 2 is basically about the concept of social control, which basically asks the question, how do you get people to conform to those values that you have identified as being very important, either for the society at large or for the individual's life. Now, the ultimate goal of any type of social control is the term internalization. Internalization is when a person does something without the need of any penalties or any rewards. So I give the example in my class of my own little children. My children are young and they have not yet internalized many of the rules associated with getting ready for bed. So for example, brushing their teeth. Sometimes it can be a chore for parents to get their kids to brush their teeth regularly and have to impose some sort of sanctions to get them to do that. If the child does it without being asked, you do high fives, you might give some sort of some other positive sanction. If the kid refuses to or breaks down and whines, then there can be some negative sanctions applied, all geared to try to get that kid to brush their teeth. But the ultimate goal with all those sanctions on the part of the parent is to eventually get to the point where the child brushes his or her teeth without being told to do so. They recognize the value of it themselves and don't need any type of positive or negative sanctions in order to do that behavior. When the child has done that and no longer needs the sanctions, we can assume the child has internalized that norm, and therefore no more forms of social control are necessary because the child understands the inherent value of doing it without having to be told. So sanctions in and of themselves are penalties and rewards for conduct concerning any type of a social norm. And as it says here, sanctions can be of the form of positive sanctions, they can be negative sanctions, they can be formal sanctions, and they can also take the form of the informal type of sanction. So let's take a look at a chart and I'll give you some examples of each one. In terms of formal sanctions come from somebody or some organization or group of people that have a specific authority to give that type of sanction, whether it's a positive sanction or a negative sanction. So for example, a formal positive sanction would be a bonus that a boss might give to a worker for good performance on a particular job. The boss or the company as a whole has the authority to formally give that person some sort of a positive sanction. A testimonial dinner. If an organization has a special dinner to honor somebody, that's a formal positive sanction. A gold medal at the Olympics, a high school diploma, a college degree, these are all examples of formal positive sanctions. Formal negative sanctions, of course, are the other side of the story. It could be a demotion. Someone could be fired from a job or a cut in pay. In some severe cases, it could be a jail sentence given by the state or a judge. It could be someone expelled from school or suspended from school in some way. The school, the judge, the government, the boss, the company all have the formal authority to give that sanction, whether it is a positive or a negative sanction. On the informal side, of course, you also have positive and negative sanctions as well. Informal sanctions can come from anybody, regardless of whether or not they have power over you in some formal fashion, like the examples given above. For on the positive side, an informal sanction could be just a simple smile. Smiling at someone lets them know that I like that behavior. I'm pleased with what you're doing. Just giving a simple compliment. Cheers. If a group of fans cheer a player, they are letting know They're letting that player know that they approve of their performance on the field. Of course, the other way could be a frown on the negative side, could be humiliating somebody, picking on somebody, belittling somebody. These are all informal ways that people can show their displeasure with someone's behavior. And of course, those are very powerful forms of sanctions as well. So in some cases, a formal sanction is what a person needs in order to do a behavior. In other cases, people are more afraid of the informal sanctions, both positive and negative, in order to get people to conform. So every situation is different and every person is different. So as a teacher, a parent, a coach, a boss, one of the difficulties that those people have is trying to match the appropriate sanction with the appropriate person, because not everybody reacts the same way to each type of sanction. One person may be motivated very much by formal positive sanctions, money, medals, trophies, things like that. Other people may not faze them at all in terms of getting a trophy. They might be more interested in an informal positive sanction or an informal negative sanction. So that's the trick of anybody in charge or anybody who would like to change behavior, is trying to figure out which sanctions work best for the individual and the situation that it involves. An example of this, a few years ago, the NBA went through a little bit of a controversy in that they were trying to change their image. They felt the way the players were dressing on the court when they were not involved in the game was having a negative impression on their sport and their brand, so to speak, as the NBA. The picture on the left is Allen Iverson, and the NBA was a little concerned that they might be losing some money in terms of ticket sales, in sponsorships, and advertising, because some companies felt that they did not want their product to be associated with the NBA, in part because of the way the players were dressing. The companies felt that that was sending a bad message, particularly the kids, and decided to kind of talk with their pocketbooks and wallets of not giving the NBA as much advertising money as, say, the NFL or Major League Baseball. The NBA stepped in and decided, well, we're going to impose a dress code and try to get the players to dress more like the picture on the right, which is a picture of LeBron James. A few players scoffed at it a little bit early on. A few players saw that that was a violation of their rights, but the NBA stuck with it. And ever since, over the past couple of years, the NBA has had that dress code. And over time, there really has not been many infractions, which gives the impression that the NBA players have internalized the need to dress appropriately because no sanctions seem to be put into place. Well, that's going to do it for this part, folks. That'll wrap up section 2 of the chapter. So the next part we will get into section 3 of chapter 3, which involves how cultures change and the factors that resist cultural change.